Law enforcement and government agencies struggle with parking citations, often because no one will pay them. Boots or other devices are costly, and they invite confrontation when implied and later removed by enforcing employees. With Tire Tag, you can avoid many hurdles and ultimately promote public safety and revenue collection. To learn more, visit tiretag.com. For a thorough conversation on how Tire Tag can help your agency in revenue collection, visit episode 204. That's 204. There are so many factors that impact the well-being of law enforcement officers, from wellness topics and developmental content to organizational expectations and social connections. RippleWorks solves that problem by providing anonymous check-ins, so each officer can get exactly what they need and want for prime performance, while agencies learn in real time how their people are doing through analytic dashboards. Take a look at RippleWorks today at www.rippleworks.com and schedule a demo. That's RippleWorks, WORX.com. The views and opinions expressed by the host and guests of this show do not represent their employing agency, department, or organization. All information should be regarded as anecdotal, contextual, and educational, and should not be misinterpreted as legal or medical advice. Welcome to Blue Grit Radio, the podcast that explores making better cops for a better community. I'm your host, Eric Tum. I've been an active police officer since 2007. We will dive into the aspects of police culture, health and wellness, leadership, and mindset. You'll hear from experts not only from policing, but all industries as they relate to being our best with purpose, passion, and positivity. Join me as we share stories, lessons, and advice so we can all be better for ourselves, our teams, our families, and our communities. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Today I have an episode that's a bit of a book review. I say it's a bit of a book review. It is a book review, but it's more than just a book review. It's a little bit more like a person and author and influencer, you could call her that, review. And this stemmed really from a version of a Q&A or a listener / follower question or questions. Because lately I've been reading a lot. I've been diving into a lot of different sources, and sometimes that's because I get really excited about different authors and concepts that I learn about. And so then I just go a little bit ridiculously into the public library, I suppose, app and portal, and I reserve all these books. And sometimes they come in kind of sprinkled, and sometimes there's this dramatic delay because it's a popular book. And then sometimes I get like 8 books waiting for me. And then with my personality type, I feel like I have to consume them really rapidly. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And sometimes, pro tip, you get this book and you flip through it and you're like, yeah, this is not what I was looking for or what I was expecting. And then you didn't waste like $20 on a book. I know a lot of you out there have kind of chimed in that you also have book ADD, where you really like the idea of a book and then you crush it for a little bit, right? And then you have a ton, like 10, 20 plus books that you've kind of taken like the first few chapters out of, and then beyond that it just sits on the shelf. So I can be that way for sure. But without further ado, if you haven't seen the title of this, if you're just an avid listener and you just download all the episodes and you just listen as you go, that's pretty fantastic too. But today we're talking about Mel Robbins. And when I shared a couple photos of little excerpts she had, like really sweet quotes and concepts, but then also like the book cover, I had a lot of response on, what did you think? What did you think? Like, and then I'd usually followed up with like, do you want like a breakdown? And I'd share some basic thoughts, but then a lot of folks said that they would want like an episode or an article breakdown on what my overall thoughts were, like pros and cons and all that. And so this is that. I think that, it's interesting because she's gotten a lot of attention, viral, I mean, as you could say, for sure. And so I'm just going to get into it, right? Mel Robbins, I was not familiar with her until really recently, like the last few months. And I think the first time I was exposed to her speaking was on social media, right? It was it was either a page I follow with motivational, insightful kind of stuff, like we all do, hopefully, to avoid all the toxic stuff. Um, but it was with somebody I was familiar with, right? Be it, I don't know if it was like Huberman or Sinek or one of these really huge voices in the spaces. But she was talking, I want to say, about friendship and relationship, and I was like, "Who is this?" Like, she's got a fantastic insight, a really strong tone, and what she said was stellar. Like, it was something processed in the way that I hadn't heard it before, but it did resonate, and I did agree. I actually thought that she was like a psychologist based on how specifically and how comfortable she felt or she seemed with the ideas presented. She is not a psychologist, and that's not a knock. I'm just sharing that. But essentially, she shares her story in a couple of her books. I've actually taken a look at two books. So the one I was posting about and sharing about was Let Them, right? It's her newest book, I believe, and it's Let Them. So, like, this philosophy, like, let them do what they want, let them say what they want, let them think what they want. Like, I'm going to do me. And that's like a super, super, super extreme distillation down to like its simplest form, which has a lot of merit, right? Um, where she got a lot of, I suppose, virality is, how easy and tangible and digestible that nugget is. Her other books include, I believe it's called High Five Habit, and then the other one is like the 5 second rule. And I might have looked at all three. I'm not sure, but the concepts are simple enough. So I went over Let Them. The 5 second rule, I did a quick flip through. So now I'm remembering I did look through all three. Um, and it's basically like, if you have this thought, if you have this thing you want to do, count down from five and either do the thing or don't do the thing and move on. And that is extremely powerful for hyper analyzers, really overthinking types, highly analytical people. I default strongly that way, where you're thinking, okay, what's the worst case scenario? What's the contingency? This and that. So value there, right? Like, get on or get off the horse, get on or get off the pod. Let's go. Um, and then I like how it allows for that too, right? It's not just like, oh, you have this idea, like, do it, do it, do it. I mean, a lot of times it's drawing upon your instinct, which is that you should know, and you will know deep down inside whether you want to do the thing or not. I think what it empowers people to do too is like, if the thing is not practical or it's not actually aligned, right? Maybe you get this invitation to work on this project, or someone hits you up from left field, um, and they're not like really a close person, and you are really strapped for time and this and that, and maybe they're like an old acquaintance from back when, but you just have your priorities aligned elsewhere. I think, or this is like my spin on it, I think it allows you to just say like, okay, 5 seconds, like, am I like changing my day up and meeting up with them for coffee or meal or not? And in 5 seconds, you'll just know, right? Even as I say that example, I can think of people where that's popped up, and you might be able to think of people where that's popped up, and it's just the thing of like, no, that's not aligned. Like, I got a full weekend. I got my family. I barely saw them all week, and yeah, I understand you're out of town. This is not what you're saying to them, but this is what you're saying to you. I understand that we were tight way back when, but like, we'll have to catch up another time, or like make time for a phone call. And so in 5 seconds, you should know where you land on that. The follow up to that would be, with the new book, Let Them, is sometimes the paralysis will come from something like, oh man, they're going to think I'm insensitive. Like, they reached out, they're only in town for the weekend. We haven't seen each other for 10 years or more. And they're going to think that I don't care. They're going to think that I'm cold. They're going to think that I don't care about our history or whatnot. But truth of the matter is, you will never truly know what they feel. And you really should not regard the maybes. And I'm not saying don't regard how they feel. There's a compassionate way to respond and be caring, and maybe that is where you say, yeah, like, it's just, I just can't do it this weekend, but let's make time. Let's set up time for like a call or FaceTime or something down the line. But it is to say that you cannot control what they think or what they do. You can only control what you think and what you do and your intention. And that has to be good enough. And I think in this hyper polarized world, I think that's really valuable to think about in our relationships, in our work dynamics, and even like what we say, what we like on social media. Like, please be mindful of that, public servants. If you're liking something that could be misinterpreted, so it's not to say be blatantly unaware or unintentional or underthought about what you engage in and how you engage in it, but it is to say that you can know what you're about and not consume these extra calories, like this extra time, energy, angst on what someone may or may not think. Because, I mean, truly, like our worlds all revolve around us in some respect. And yes, others probably more so than others. Like, I mean, those people will stand out, and hopefully we're not them. But you can only consider the world through your worldview. And so, as you may think, oh my gosh, they're going to think this and that and the other, and they're going to talk about me. And I mean, probably not, because they're worried about their own stuff. And that's kind of the point of what I mean, is in that everyone's world revolves around them. It's just how things are. Like, you only can truly know your own perspective and your own sphere and environment. Like, that's just, it's an impossibility to know others. It is really fantastic and caring and I suppose like positive to try to consider others, right? That's where we talk about empathy and understanding and tolerance, which are very valid and probably the antidote for all the toxicity that we have in every walk, right? In the media, in social media, in just life, it feels, but in our own environments, right? It's not the first time I talked about how negative and toxic first responder work can be um, in our own culture to our own people. Like, let's stop. And I'm as guilty as many. I won't say everyone, because some of y'all out there are pretty freaking negative, and there are some people it seems like, whether it's on social media or whether it's in real life, like, I'm hard pressed to hear or see them say something positive about the job or someone else. And I think that that is just such a letdown, right? They're letting themselves down, that you are spending this much time away from your family, your friends, the things you would also like to do based on your tone and what you say, to do this career that can be really hard. But if you look for it, if you just try a little harder, there's so much good that is done every single day, potentially by you and certainly by the people you work with. So take a second. If it's so hard to see, maybe you need some more time off, maybe you need to talk to somebody. So that is a call up, not a call out as much. But going back to, let's see, we covered let them. We covered the 5 second rule, like, do it or don't do it, move on. And then the high five habit, I believe is what it's called. The high five habit is essentially, you know, this notion that, like, give yourself some self love. You're constantly shaming yourself, and all of our subconscious thoughts are like always churning and going and going. And it is the recognition and the suggestion of the ideas that we have all this negativity in our own brains, like, I didn't do this right, or what if I do this wrong, and oh man, I look like garbage, I didn't sleep well. Like, these moments that you have with yourself, and literally starting the day. So the idea is, you can rewire through positive thinking and subconscious thinking. And the simple habit she suggests is, when you get in front of the mirror in the morning, instead of frowning or like a passive face where you just are generally tired and you generally don't look great first thing in the morning because you just woke up, and all the things, is to high five yourself in the mirror. And that might sound super silly. I will say, this is not something that I've like fully committed to trying, but I get it, right? I get the draw and the aspect. If you want to high five yourself in the mirror, be like, it's essentially like, good for you, go get it. Like, you're a badass, right? There's other ways to focus on this. A lot of people do gratitude journal, and she gets into a lot of aspects as to why she says the high five habit, and why she should suggest this method. But I will say that because of the neuroscience behind gratitude, intentional writing, right? Like this could evolve into I believe it was Chris Literal, friend and colleague in the space, but I believe it was him that said, when you consider writing something or when you think about someone um, that you're grateful for, like consider texting them in that moment. Um, and I think I heard him say that. Man, if it's not Chris Literal, he has just as many amazing ideas, but I'm just going to credit him. I was listening to this on the plane, and I was writing gratitudes, and I started writing, mentors and people that I've looked up to and continue to look up to, that I'm really grateful for, as far as like their leadership and their guidance and their, bouncing ideas off of sounding board stuff. And I took a picture and I texted each of them that. And so I think that too often we miss the opportunities to tell people around us how valuable they are to us, right? Like every human being needs to feel value. And so recognizing that, bringing it back into self would be, do you recognize your own value? Um, who are the most important people in your life? And we were asked this actually in this class I'm at, executive management class. And I was the only person in 30 people in the class per the instructor that said, I value myself. Top 5 people in my life, I value myself. And that might sound egotistical or cocky to some. However, that's like a work in progress. Like I would never have said that like a year and a half or 2 years ago because of everyone else. But it is the recognition that your life is nothing without you, and your ability to care for others is nothing if you're not sustaining yourself. I mean, that is an all too common recognized idea in the space of first responder wellness, and caretaker type of mentality is like if you're always worried about someone else, you literally won't be able to keep worrying about them because you will burn out, you will crack. That's just how things go, and I've dabbled with that, right? So this is not like I'm better than. This is not I have it all figured out. This is like everything else in the writing and the speaking and the podcasting I do is because I am trying to remember that, continue to strengthen that resolve and share it out, right? Like that is the best the best I can offer is sharing insight because that's the kind of stuff I could have used more of throughout my whole career, right? And that's, I know a lot of folks, John Kelly, Mark Bouchard, people that have been on the show and that continue to do their work, kind of in parallel or alongside, is that they know what it's like. And it's not like they have it all figured out, but it is continuing these positive conversations. Okay, back to Mel Robbins. Why is she so controversial? Some of the things are that people feel like these are super simple, old school, like ancient, and talking about like ancient Rome, like Stoicism, and they draw from Zen ideology, right? Like Zen Buddhism. Let them and just do it or don't do it. And yeah, but like that, I think that you could say that about so many authors and speakers. You could say that about me, right? I didn't invent any of this stuff on my own. Like I literally was talking about texting my mentors and people in the space, that are doing this kind of work and this type of messaging alongside, right? Like John Kelly's been doing this a lot longer than I have. But we are different people and a lot of our themes may overlap. But the fact is, someone might be an avid listener of his show and not like my show at all, right? That's totally possible and that's totally great. And the thing is, like, everyone's a different individual. I could have 3 sergeants that I worked for as an officer, and they could all be great sergeants, and they could all believe in like 80% the same thing as far as tactics and police philosophy, but one of them resonated more because of who I am, because of how I understand things, how I communicate, my experience, their experience, how they share, how I receive. And that's kind of what I want to bring up here is that, like, with the hate for Mel Robbins or anyone else, it's like when you put something down in such a way that it resonates clearer or more impactfully to someone, then that's a win, right? And it's one thing, plagiarism is one thing. I'm not going in the weeds whether she plagiarized or not. In her book, she makes a lot of mention that certain aspects are not like her unique idea, but she is an influencer, and that's not a knock. That's to say that she's able to take ideas and push them out and have them viralize. I think I just invented that word, but have them like catch steam and catch fire. Um, uh, One thing I don't love about her books is that the first few chapters basically just talks about how viral she went, which, on the contrary, I can understand how that is like building this credibility. Um, it's basically all these photos and kind of clips of like the hashtag like 5 second rule and how much traction she gained, and that's where she's drawing from the success for the book or books. I'm just saying it's just not my thing, to put it all out that way. Um, some people in the original post kind of said they were curious to see what I thought or hear what I thought because they kind of got this ick feeling, and I think that as best as I could understand, the follow up questions comments were that because she's not a psychologist and because it's not her research per se that she's citing, but again, there's a lot of people doing a lot of amazing work, and when you credit them and you bring it to light and it helps more people, then that's great, right? Like Dr. Brene Brown can say something in such a way that might resonate with this group of people, and then other people hear the message and they're like, yeah, not my thing. But they can hear uh you know Trevor Noah say it, who's not a doctor, I'm pretty sure. But he has a unique voice and he has a unique perspective and he has a unique audience. Uh, and they get it and they can put it into their lives and improve their outlook and be more collaborative with the community or improve their relationships, what have you. Right. So I don't like getting so hyper focused on on that aspect. I just like thinking about the positive. Um, some criticisms are too simple. Okay, like a lot of the most uh, prolific, significant concepts are really simple. And if you do get into, it's kind of like it's our job to figure out what to do with it. These simple concepts, right? Yeah. If you just read it and you think, okay, like it didn't fix anything, well, you're right. Like you gotta do the work. Um, it's too passive. Like it sounds like it's giving up, but she speaks on this, and I've heard it in podcasts where she speaks on how it's not like let them do whatever they want. Um, the follow up to let them is let me, like let me do my thing, or if it's a interpersonal conflict and someone from the outside might think that you're saying let them walk all over me. It's like no, let them say what they want, but let me set clear boundaries. Let me set my expectations on what I will and won't tolerate because it's unprofessional or unkind, right? It's to say that you are taking agency. And I think that's where the idea falls off for a lot of people. They think it's the opposite of taking agency. But again, it's what you want to do with it. I've posted Marcus Aurelius quotes and had a lot of people be like, oh, yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. But then other people are like, well, no, like there's still a problem to fix. And I would say yes, but there's also a twist to, if it's a Stoicism quote from Marcus Aurelius, and to one reader, it sounds like, well, that sounds like you don't care and you're giving up. But it might be saying that you don't care about what people think about your efforts because you this is aligned with your values, so you're going to do the thing whether people want to come along or not. Like you have to run your lab. And so we could really get in the weeds with all that. Again, criticism include that it ignores accountability. I think that we speak to that, right? You're not just letting anyone do anything. It's more about the stuff you can't control, right? So those are some of my overall thoughts. Kind of went all over the place on purpose to cover her different books and ideas. Um, but I think that it is, again, circling back, these are tangible, relatively simple things that focus on positivity, right? Like what can you control? what can you take agency of? And that always comes back to, again, like whether it's Zen Buddhism, whether it's Stoicism, whether it's Viktor Frankl, whether it's, even some Nietzsche, right? Speaking to the fact that you control you. And I think to go deeper, like I can't control everything that happens with my body, right? I can get myself to the gym and such, but then if I get injured, right, if I get like a disease, sure, you can't control everything, but you can control your thoughts largely. But even to the beginning of this episode, like we have a lot of these overwhelming subconscious thoughts that come in and out, and little cataclysms all over, especially this quote unquote overthinkers, hyperactive monkey brain, as I've heard it called, which resonates with me. But we can control our attitude, right? So we can't always control our bodies. We can't always control our thoughts, but we can control our attitude, and our attitude absolutely can curb our intentions, our thoughts, and then that does kind of lead right into our actions, right? And that does go into like our psychology, our physiology, actions we take with our body and health and relationships. Again, self leadership. That's why I am so passionate about wellness, because as the challenges out there in life or in policing or fill in the blank are so continually shifting and changing and growing and whatever, like the only thing that I see just about that is like the most significant and the biggest moneymaker is to invest in yourself. Invest in your ability to be resilient. Invest in your adaptable nature. Invest in your positive, constructive attitude. That is why I created Get Gritty, like the virtual course on, self-paced video course, because people were asking for it, right? They're like, how do you navigate the career and like deal with all this wellness stuff? And it's something that I've been researching for over a decade and forming my own habits and helping other people and suggesting some different things, whether it's diet or lifestyle. And that's just the best way I could put it out. And then lead yourself well, right? So that's the abridged, or I suppose adapted version, which is recognizing that, yeah, you have all these wellness tenets, but it has to start with leading yourself based on your mindset and your values. Like if you don't take time to actually recognize what those are, write them down, then, like, what are we doing? And so those are huge things that make me really excited to present that. It's training that I've run a couple times now and have online coming up, on the 7th of November, right? So that's an online version. If you want to get a seat on that, there are a couple spots. I had a couple people drop out because of conflicts, which is life, and that totally happens. So, again, shoot me a line if you want to sit in on that. A couple spots, but it is focused on small group, right? So that's a 4-hour session total. But really, so it's not just lecture, because we all, certainly me, but a lot of us don't get as much if we're not engaging and asking questions actively. So that's where it's geared that way. So those are my overall thoughts on Mel Robbins and Let Them, and the 5-second rule and the high five habit. So are there ways that we can inject lessons from this? If you want to walk by the mirror and high five yourself and see how it goes, like, let me know how it went. I'm intrigued. It just hasn't been my thing. But taking moments to practice self appreciation, self value, and self love, I think that is critical. If you want to start every day and end every day with like hugging yourself and saying good job, I I imagine that would have really positive effects. And so, uh, that's just what I'll offer, right? So think about ways that you can show yourself some value, give yourself some credit, give yourself some grace, and certainly we can be more resilient. So, um, let me know what you thought. If you liked any of this, if you disagree, it's interesting because as I comment on books and have gotten a lot of feedback on, it was quite a while ago when my buddy Trevor came on. We kind of went through How to Win Friends and Influence People, like a book review discussion. That really resonated because a lot of us are strapped on time, and that's kind of the point. And if I can cover some different ideas over the course, or absorb these different ideas over the course of a few or several hours, whether it's a book and a series of interviews with this concept, and absorb that because I'm going to do it anyway because I'm pretty fascinated by this stuff, and then churn it out to you in 20 to 40 minutes. And this one's coming up on 30, so we're looking pretty sweet. I'm down for it. So that is my goal, is to be helpful and present ideas and discussions and things to make you think, so that you can implement things for your team, yourself, your family, so you can do the job, the mission, whether that's first responder work or not, whether that's running your life, running your business, so you can do it all a little bit better, a little bit more well, prevent burnout, improve longevity, all the good things. So with that, again, if you want a spot in that November 7th training, just shoot me a line, Instagram, Blue Grit Wellness, or bluegritwellness@gmail.com. And if you're not subscribed to the free newsletter, I've been getting a lot of positive feedback on that. Just go to bluegritwellness.com. You will have this little window pop up. You can subscribe for free. It's designed so that you can look at the little thought, the quotes, find out what's new, like new articles that got published that I've written. It's just a one-stop shop to get all the Blue Grit updates. So, all right. Thank you all again and again for the support, the shares. The shares and the reviews help immensely. And with that, please take care, stay safe, and stay gritty. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Blue Grit Radio. As always, support this community by subscribing, giving us a 5-star review, and following, liking, and sharing posts on Blue Grit Wellness on Instagram. You can reach me there or email me at bluegritwellness@gmail.com. Be well and stay gritty.